Is it a glitch pedal? A reverb? Delay pedal? A looper? Granular effect? It's kind of all those things. Is it a delay pedal? Is it a lo-fi pedal? Granular effect? Tape effect? It's kind of all those things. After the open is the Chase Bliss Habit versus the Microcosm. Kind of. We go up on the Modifier. Whoa. The Habit has a totally different vibe. You know, once I start exploring some of the weirder features on this thing, like the scan and the spread and the modifiers, and especially that song collector mode, it's like I don't fully know what's gonna happen when I turn these knobs, but I still feel like I have way more control over the process than the Microcosm. Let me know if your experiences with these pedals are similar. So this isn't the first time that I've tried to do a video with the Microcosm. One time I even borrowed my friend's Mood to do a blooper plus Mood tag team versus the Microcosm, because I actually bought the Microcosm to replace both Mood and blooper. But I never got around to it because for some reason the Microcosm always confuses me. I think it's because I have no idea what it really does or how it does it, right? Hit me up in the comments if you feel the same way. It's always been a bit of a black box to me. You know, it's got all these knobs and controls like the reverb and the mix and the filter and the envelope settings and the repeats, and then you got the shift functions where you can hit the tempo and the resonance and the mod frequency. It's got more knobs and controls than most other pedals that I have. But it feels like these just really kind of shape the core sound after it's already been formed, you know? And so the activity knob is really the only knob that gives you any access to the actual algorithm itself. And you know, half the time I feel like I'm turning it and I can't hear anything happening anyways, you know? So it's almost like if I'm on an algorithm and it's not even in the right ballpark, it just feels like my only option is just to keep scrolling. We're talking about a new breed of guitar pedal. There's so many different effects shoved into one box. I mean, I wouldn't quite call it like a multi-effects unit. You know, to me, that would be more like a buffet, maybe, you know, and these are more like an everything bagel, right? Or gumbo or leftover stew, where you're taking all these different ingredients, not separately, but you're putting them together to create something new, you know? In any case, we're a long ways away from my first stomp box, which was the Line 6 DL4. And the other two, right? The purple one and the yellow one, I got them all at the same time. Let me know in the comments what your first stomp boxes were, what your first guitar pedals were. And maybe you're a youngin' and these are your first ones. If we were just looking at features, it would be hard to beat the Microcosm, right? To really even just match it, I'd have to chain Blooper and Habit and the CXM 1978. The Microcosm might be pricey, but it's one of the best values going in boutique pedals. And when you hit the right preset with the right sound, it can be amazing. So how do I even begin to compare these guys, right? I mean, you know, music, for me, music is relative, right? Pitch is relative, rhythm is relative, everything is relative to a context. And I think about gear the same way. Features aren't as interesting to me as how a piece of gear actually fits into my studio to help me find sounds that I love. So that's why I'm always shooting gear out against each other, trying to figure out which one's going to suit my studio, my needs the best. Apologies if I don't always cover your use case scenario, but feel free to hit me up in the comments with any ideas or suggestions about what you would like to see in future videos. I mean, you know, I'm probably not going to learn how to play guitar for you guys, but if I can work your ideas and comments into my future videos, I will. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and run these two pedals through some different scenarios and see what comes out. The Habit has a rare quality that I haven't really found in any other gear, at least not the stuff that I've used. You know, the manufacturers, they might call this feature like random or randomness or whatever, probability, but that's not really what I'm talking about. You know, that's not really what I want. What I really want is a delightful unpredictability in a musical context. Boy, that's a mouthful. You know how when you're playing a video game and the cannon fodder bad guys, not the big bad, but the cannon fodder bad guys always appear in the exact same spots at the exact same times and always make the exact same movements, right? Well, that's kind of what we're talking about here, but with electronic music. Most music, we want unpredictable variation, but to stay inside of a musical context, right? And I feel like that is the Habit's superpower. The elements of the design that introduce kind of randomness are well chosen and they interact well with the other parts of the pedal, right? And because it's based on your playing and you can set the tempo and control the timing of it, right? Everything stays in context unless you don't want it to. Meanwhile, that memory loop also gives you a ton of unpredictable variation. The microcosm though, right? It feels like even when it's adding on tons of layers and tons of sounds and doing lots of things to your original track, right? It still feels kind of repetitive and predictable unless it's just going absolutely crazy. But I never said anything about this being a death match. These two pedals play really well with each other. Here's an example where I took a pair of sequential synthesizers and fed them into Habit and Microcosm, and eventually wound up feeding the outputs of the pedals into each other.